Hey friends, Benjamin from Lean Strong here. So after the last video about hidden carbs in vegetables, I've received a number of questions around what percentage of my calories should be coming from carbohydrates. And it's a wonderful question. My answer to that is a little bit of a side to that is I don't personally think of it as a percentage of calories. I find the math to just be a little bit too challenging when you're looking at, okay, this apple has 30 grams of sugar. Sugar is 4 calories per gram. That gives me 120 carbs. Therefore, I need, or 120 calories, and that's this percentage of my total calories. Like, even as I'm explaining that, I got a little bit confused. It just seems it's a bit challenging for day-to-day life unless you're like really tracking everything you eat on a scale. And let's be honest, that's not sustainable for most people. Even for the people it is, it's not sustainable for very long. So here's how I think about putting carbs into your nutrition plan. So first of all, protein is the most important macronutrient. We can actually make carbohydrates from stored fat with a process called gluconeogenesis, which is a fancy way of saying we make new glucose. It's not super efficient in the body, but it is possible. Versus protein, there's essential amino acids we need, and fat, there's essential fats that we need. So when I'm setting up a nutrition plan and I'm trying to think how do carbs, protein, and fat fit into the overall calorie picture, the first thing I think about is what is your goal? So if your goal is fat loss, generally speaking, you want to be eating about 10 to 12 times your body weight in calories. So that's 10 to 12 times your body weight in calories. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you want to be eating roughly 2,000 to 2,400 calories, and that would put you in a caloric deficit that would lead to fat loss. If you're looking to just simply maintain your weight and just stay healthy and it's all about quality of life, you can bump that up into the like 12 to 14, maybe 12 to 15 times your body weight range. So that would be like 2,400 calories and up. Now, I want to be clear, there's a lot of variation in this. It really depends on a couple things. One, how active you are in daily life. That would be how often are you walking outdoors, basically not sitting down. Two, how much muscle do you have? Muscle is more metabolically active than fat, meaning if you are a larger proportion of muscle, you're going to use more calories just staying alive than if you're a larger proportion of fat. You'll need less calories. And then three is how often are you exercising? So this could be strength training, cardiovascular activity, whatever the exercise of your choice is. But as you can probably guess, if you have more muscle, you're more active, and you're exercising more, you'll probably need more calories, even in weight loss, because you don't want to lose weight too fast, or you end up kind of doing that yo-yo approach that we've all done before and nobody wants to do again. But as a general guideline, starting at a place of 10 to 12 times your calories for fat loss is a good place to start, and then you can always adjust based on results. There's no perfect math for this. It's mostly educated trial and error, and if you're looking to maintain 12 and up based on activity level. And the easy way to know if it's working is simply just like check your belt or your waist circumference or your weight on a scale if you're okay with that. If you're aiming to lose weight and you're not, you just need to bump that down from maybe 12 to 11. And if that's not working, bump it down to 10. And if that's not working, you can go down to 9 or 8 times body weight, but you generally want to throw in some activity and exercise because you want to lose fat. Ideally, you want to lose fat while eating as much as possible, which is a really, really important thing, and that requires a bit more exercise, a bit less stress, a bit better sleep, and a few other things. But back to the carbs piece. Let's say your goal is to lose a few pounds. So you're going to start eating 10 times your body weight in calories, and you weigh 200 pounds, so you're going to be aiming for 2,000 calories. Well, from there, first you want to fill in protein. So generally speaking, you want to be at 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound. So for that 200 pound person, you want to be eating like roughly 140 to 160 grams of protein. Protein is 4 calories per gram, so that gives you about 600 calories. 2,000 calories minus 600 calories gives you 1,400 calories that you can work with. Doing this math in my head as we go. So now you've got 1,400 calories left that you can fill into your bucket of 2,000 for the day. Now this is where it comes to carbs and fat. It doesn't really matter whether you get those calories from carbs or those calories from fat, provided that you get a little bit of both. Especially for the females in the audience who are in the, perimenopausal age range. Going really low carb just seems to wreak a little bit more havoc on your hormones, and generally when you're in that stage, your hormones are already having a little bit of havoc wreaked on them. So I wouldn't go completely no carb, and at the same time, you definitely don't want to go completely no fat, because as I mentioned earlier, fat is essential. We do need healthy fats such as omegas. That's why eating fish is so important. Even like healthy, natural, saturated fats such as like coconut oil or grass-fed butter. Those are important for metabolic functions and our hormones. So if you've got 1,400 calories left, generally speaking, I recommend just eating according to your preferences. If you're someone who tends to like a little bit more fat in your diet, you can eat a little bit more fat. If you tend to like a little bit more carbs in your diet, you can eat a little bit more carbs in your diet. As much as it's not that marketable to be like, it doesn't really matter that much, from all of the evidence out there that I've seen, it just simply doesn't. As long as you're getting a bit of both, you're probably fine. Now, you're going to be consuming less fat because there's 9 calories per gram, so it's about twice as dense as carbohydrates, which are 4 calories per gram. So it's not like you want to eat a huge tub of olive oil. Not that you would, because that's disgusting. But you're just going to like fill it in based on your eating preferences. And especially if you're getting a lot of fiber from lots of fibrous veggies that we talked about a couple weeks ago, it just doesn't make that big of a difference. Now, the one thing I will mention is most people are getting way more carbohydrates than they need. It's not a bad thing, but I'm not usually surprised if people are getting like 70% of their calories from carbohydrates. So by naturally bumping up protein, carbs has to decrease a little bit. Otherwise, the bucket of 2,000 calories is overflowing. But aside from that, it just doesn't make too much of a difference. So I would generally recommend, if you want a next step, is to slowly reduce some of your carbohydrates. As I've talked about, it does not mean low carb is good. It does not mean carbohydrates are bad. It's a thing that we're already getting a lot of, so it can be addressed. There's probably exceptions to this, and someone watching this video is going to say, I don't get that many carbs. Like, great, there's exceptions to every rule. But for the most part, we get a lot of carbs because they're delicious. They're usually non-perishable. They're usually affordable. And you can eat a lot of them in one sitting because they're not that satiating. So again, when it comes to how many carbs you should be eating in a day, it's not just about the carbs. It's about how does the whole picture fit together. So again, start with your target for calories. Even if you don't track your calories, that's totally fine. Next, fill in protein. Next, fill in carbs and fat based on your eating preferences, but your goal is to not go above your calorie target. And that applies to fat loss as well as maintenance. Because if you're in fat loss and you're overeating, you're just not losing weight. If you're in maintenance and you're overeating, you're gaining weight. And depending on your goals, you may want to put on a little bit of weight, at which point it's a little bit of a different conversation. But you want to be aiming for like this number of calories is my bullseye, fill in with protein, backfill with everything else. So I hope this sheds some light, and keep the questions coming. I'm really enjoying the feedback, and I'd love to keep making catered content for your needs. Talk soon.